Tracking gusty and destructive winds ahead for our midweek and end of week forecast. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods out of the capital city of Sacramento. So as we start to prepare for the drier weather, on the heels of that, we get into the gusty winds. Here's a look at the Sierra right now. Just kind of a sloppy drive through today, still dealing with areas of snow showers. That's what we've pretty much seen on and off throughout the entire forecast into our Tuesday. Most of that departing as we head into the overnight hours. Some lingering light showers for the valley as well. Now, this is actually partially good news because we've got that wetting rain and the snow in the Sierra. We're going to talk about how those gusty winds could affect our fire danger. You can see some of the clearing skies already taking place as we look out to the Pacific. Not much in the way of active weather into our overnight Tuesday, Wednesday forecast. But again, on the heels of that and behind that, we have the setup for the gusty winds to develop late into our Wednesday through early Friday morning. Here are some of the gusts that we're predicting for the valley. 35 to 45 miles per hour in the mountains. That'll increase to about 55 to 70 miles per hour. Some of the impacts could be trees down, especially for the Sierra, creating some power issues, as well as pollen floating around, especially for the valley where we have a lot of trees in bloom and a lot of flowers as well. Our wind advisory going into place late on Wednesday through early Friday. That will be in place through 11 a.m. for the lower elevations all the way over towards the coast. But as we move up in elevation towards the Sierra, we get into our high wind watch. Again, going into place late Wednesday through early Friday, where we can see some of those bigger impacts, especially into our Thursday. Now, because we've had the recent rain and the snow, our significant fire potential is basically very low. We've got moist conditions, especially with the vegetation, and that starts to bring down the fire danger. That's not to say that we shouldn't always use good fire prevention tools in our back pocket, especially as we head into these gusty conditions. And we could see a fire break out. It's just that the rate of spread would be very low given the recent rain, but we could certainly still see a fire start. Our statewide precipitation looking good so far. We've had just a really healthy water year so far. We're still seeing a couple of pockets in there with below average precipitation, and that being for South Lake Tahoe, down by about 4.5 inches. We're starting to see those numbers go up here. For Sacramento, we're down by about 1/4 of an inch, and in Palm Springs, down about an inch or so. But overall, statewide outlook is looking very good. Our windy weather this week as it unfolds. Wednesday, the winds start to increase. Again, our main impacts will be trees, pollen, and power, which will be tracking into the middle and end of the week. Thursday is more of that moderate to major impact day. Valley gusts 35 to 45 miles per hour, more in the moderate impact zone. Mountain gusts, though, at 55 to 70 miles per hour. That's when we could see some trees coming down and bigger widespread power impacts. And then for Friday, we'll have some gusty morning winds. Then they start to die down, leading us into that Saturday forecast. Lighter winds and 70s are back. These are dry and warming winds. When I show you some of those regional temperatures, you'll see it's going to be a rather warm Wednesday. Some of us even reaching close to 70 degrees for Wednesday, especially for the coastal valley communities, Fairfield, Vallejo, and Fairfield included. Wednesday afternoon, wind gusts 25 to 30 miles per hour. Not particularly problematic at that point, more on the nuisance side of things. But then during Thursday morning is when we start to see these contours shift, especially for any places that have elevation. Coastal valley communities, as well as the mountains. We're starting to see wind gusts approaching about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Now, through the day is when we really start to see those winds ramp up, especially for the Sierra. That's when we'll get in that zone of about 55 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts developing through the day on Thursday. Heading into the overnight hours, winds back off a little bit. We'll still see some isolated areas with very gusty conditions, that being true for Santa Rosa, Parts of the coastal range, Clear Lake could see some pretty gusty conditions, and then we'll start to see a little bit less widespread gusty winds. So the 80-50 corridor is still dealing with the gusty conditions through about 11 o'clock, but by the time we get to Friday at about noon, everything really quieting down. Again, this is in the wake of that weather system that brought us some recent wetting rain and Sierra snow, which is some good news, just keeping that vegetation a little bit more on the wetter side and preventing us from seeing widespread huge fire danger, because these are the types of conditions dig deeper into the dry season. That's when we start to see that fire danger get elevated very quickly. Low pressure system settling into the Great Basin here, and we're going to have that high pressure ridge building in from the Pacific, creating those offshore winds. It's a pressure gradient that we see in between those two particular weather systems that create those offshore winds, more on the north to northeast side of the direction for our sustained winds. And then those gusts will be more erratic, but those breezy conditions really ramping up into our Thursday. What's interesting about that low pressure system as it starts to move in through Southern California, bringing us a chance of more rain coming in for the end of the work and school week. So places in the southern Sierra getting a quick chance of some snow showers there and some rain showers in through Southern California. It's not going to last all too long, but it does set us up for a likely wetter weather pattern March 20th through the 26th from the Climate Prediction Center, predicting our precipitation will be slightly above average for that time frame. As far as our temperatures, though, staying on the likely warmer side of things, especially through Northern California. And I know some folks are starting to gear up for their spring break. So that's how things are shaping up throughout the state. Not much in the way of big weather systems coming through. Periodically, we'll see some showers move through Southern California towards that time frame there between about the 20th and the 26th. It doesn't mean that we're going to have huge storms coming through. It's just we tend to get drier and drier as the month goes on, especially for Southern California, which dries out a little bit quicker than, say, Northern California. But it looks like we will hang on to at least a slight chance of those showers coming through. Have a developing weather system off the coast here as we're starting to head towards our Palm Sunday forecast. I know we got some big travel plans here throughout the state as we start heading into what will be a bigger travel period just with spring break and all, either the week before Easter, the week after Easter, and we'll be tracking how things start to unfold towards the end of the week. Here's what I mentioned with the temperatures starting to warm up. We saw snow for today in the mountains, and then once we get post-wind, we get temperatures close to 50 degrees. So the atmosphere warming up pretty quickly here. Windy conditions, though, late Wednesday, Thursday into early Friday, and we'll keep those temperatures right around the low to mid 40s. For the foothills, highs are going to be warming close to 70 by the time we get into that Friday forecast. We'll keep it in the mid-60s for our weekend outlook. I should mention also, if you plan to head up to the high country on Thursday to do any skiing or snowboarding, just be prepared for the potential for some of those lifts to be closed due to the winds. Along the coast, beautiful conditions here. We've got sunny skies. Highs will be close to 70 for Friday, and we'll keep it in the mid to upper 60s over the weekend. With our 10-day forecast, of course, we've got St. Patrick's Day there on Sunday. Highs will be in the mid-60s with windy weather developing with those dry and warming conditions. Highs will be in the low to mid-70s Friday, Saturday through early next week, even close to 80 by the time we get it into early next week. But again, tracking that slight chance to return to a wetter than average pattern by the end of the next work and school week. Weather playlist is always on. You want to download that ABC 10 Plus app. We've got in-depth forecasts just like this. Anytime we see those bigger weather pattern shifts and not only nuisance but dangerous conditions developing, we tend to do these bigger, impactful weather forecasts and also weather specials like mega flood, water wasted, and our California drought series. Again, that's on our ABC 10 Plus app. It's live, local, always on. You can download it for free on Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV.